This is Motovore, I'm Tushar, and today we're at Seven Islands Harley-Davidson in Mumbai, and we're taking a look at the new Harley-Davidson Street Rod 750. Let's take a closer look. The Street Rod 750 is, as you may have guessed, based on the Street 750 motorcycle, and it's available in three colors. The left one you see over there, that's a kind of a matte grey. That's an olive green, which is a little bit gloss with a bit of gold fleck, and there's a black, which we'll shift to take a closer look. And this is the black one. Immediately apparent, of course, is the more aggressive sporty profile. You've got different tires up front and at the back. Should be fairly apparent that you've got now twin discs up front. You've got upside down forks in the front, slightly shorter muffler, different tail section, and a different front fascia. Let's go up closer. Right, here we go. That's what the front looks like. That fly screen is different. It covers a little bit more of the console. You've got these almost flat drag style handlebars, and those mirrors attached to the ends of the handlebar are actually standard. Also new is the new master cylinder. Needs to be larger to clamp. What we have here, twin 300mm discs. The discs are clamped by conventional calipers. Those are two piston calipers on each side. The rake is reduced from 32 degrees to 27 degrees. This should make this bike significantly more sporty in terms of handling. There's your standard Street 750 in profile. You can clearly see that rake is wildly different compared to the new Street Rod. We also have this, that's the new air cleaner. I'm told that this air cleaner alone is responsible for a 3 Nm bump in torque. Just for comparison, let's show you the one on the Street 750. There you go, much more modest looking air cleaner on the 750. It's not immediately apparent, but that muffler actually stops a little bit short on the Street Rod. On the 750, on the other side, it's actually a little bit longer. This one's a bit of a shorter muffler. Tail section also significantly different. This is a plastic unit, it's not metal, but it's really quite solid. It mounts to this now shorter tail section. That panel is actually new, so the profile of the seat is also new. Side panel remains the same. Engine is substantially the same. The torque is actually made a little bit higher in the rev range. Peak torque of 62 Nm comes at 4000 RPM. Rear shocks are also different. They've got this nice reddish orange color, gives a nice bit of pop to this vehicle. This time they are gas charged, and they have a piggyback reservoir. In the photos, these actually look quite beefy, but in real life they don't look appreciably larger than the ones on the Street 750. But I'm sure thanks to the improved technology, they should have some better damping action. The front forks are not adjustable, and for some reason they have this huge metal brace, which actually also acts as a dust cover for your exposed stanchion of the fork. So that's nice, but it's a little bit weird because the fender itself is plastic and the brace is metal, and a very solid metal. Harley-Davidson doesn't do half measures as far as steel is concerned. What else? Yes, of course, the seat is higher, so if you're a particularly short person, this is not going to be as comfortable as the 750. Fairly obvious, much higher. It's got quite a bit more ground clearance as well. Here's a closer look at the ground clearance. That is the old Street 750, 145mm of ground clearance. And let's pull back to the Street Rod. That is 205mm of ground clearance. Of course, that paddock stand also has something to do with it, but it is 205mm. seat height, closer look, that is a 765 millimeter seat height compared to the old Street 750, which is 720 millimeters. More changes to ergonomics. Those foot pegs, they are substantially different from what you have on the Street 750. The Street 750 are a bit, well, garib looking, but the Street Rod has some nice looking levers and foot pegs. They appear to be, I'm not sure if they're cast or forged, but they're certainly not stamped steel. There is a bit of a 3D look to them. These pegs have feelers, but they don't have springs, which is a surprising omission, but a smart thing has been done here, because a sporty rider is typically going to put the ball of his foot on the peg. You're probably going to have your heel sort of hanging around, so you've got that to rest it on, which is smart. These are of course not as forward mounted as the Street 750. It's pretty obvious when you look at it from this angle. Passenger pegs are also the same, but again, no springs, but you usually don't need that. Similar sari guards, which you should probably remove in the interest of shame. And on to the new engine. Not really a new engine, still the same 750cc V2N liquid cooled, but now it has a higher compression ratio of 12:1. It also has twin port fuel injection. It uses a larger 42 mm bore instead of the previous 38 mm, which of course I'm sure contribute to the increased performance as well. Thanks to the increased ride height and ground clearance, you have a much longer side stand as well. More finer points. That swing arm actually has these little industrial looking indents in there. Whether they do anything for the stiffness of the swing arm or they're just decorative, they're there. Overall, the wheelbase of the Street Rod is actually reduced by 10 millimeters, which should actually make this a little bit more flickable and sporty. Nice little details. There's actually a Harley-Davidson logo in the middle of that reflector, whereas in the standard Street 750 it's just a clear amber cover. Harley has also standardized the wheel size in the Street Rod. That now is a 120 by 70 17-inch tire, 17-inch rim, and that at the rear is a 160 by 60 17-inch tire. So both rims are now 17 inches, which should give you significantly more choice in terms of tires. I believe these tires are exactly the same size combination as available on the Ninja 650. So you should be able to get some nice sporty rubber for this. As it stands in stock form, those are MRF Nilo grips on the Street 750, and on the Street Rod you get the newer generation MRF Revs series. Should be interesting to see what this bike can do with sticky Pirelli or Michelin rubber. By now we're probably nitpicking, but the Street Rod seems to have a slightly cleaner wiring situation than available on the standard Street 750, which is a little bit messy with a bunch of those wires hanging around there from the wiring harness going towards the front and the headlight unit. There also appears to be a bit of a difference in the way this steering stem mates to the chassis. It's a little bit different looking than the one on the Street 750. I'm sure that's what's required to make the geometry changes that they have on this motorcycle. Unfortunately, the rear brake situation still remains the same. While you have a nicer looking lever, you still got this rather ugly looking situation with the push rod going into the master cylinder and pushing back. You've got a electrical connection here for the tail lamp, and ultimately it goes to the rear disc. It could have been cleaner, but it's actually not very different from the Street 750 standard model, except that the whole apparatus is more forward set and you've got the regular stamped steel lever. The new seat unit is also scalloped in a different way. You can see that profile is a little bit different. It's also perforated and uses a different grey material for the cover. It's only slightly better looking than the traditional unit on the Street 750. This one has a more continuous kind of flow and has no perforation and a fairly basic looking leather. So that is the new Harley-Davidson Street Rod 750, and that is the standard Street 750. Street Rod 750 is about 753 on road in Mumbai. You get better rubber, you get better suspension, you get better brakes, you get more power, you get higher ground clearance, you get a higher seat and a few upmarket touches. As far as the numbers go, it's pretty promising. We can't wait to try it on the street and find out for ourselves.